Weeknights on MeTV. Who loves you, baby?
You shouldn't ask.
It's Kojak.
Well, it sounds like music to my ear.
On MeTV.
Look at me.
Why do we love him?
Maybe it's the way I comb my hair.
Or maybe it's his trusty right-hand man.
More bite? Cracker! Cracker! Cracker!
Kojak!
Well, I just wanted to hear how it sounded.
Telly Savalas' Kojak.
Story of my life, baby.
Weeknights at 12:30, 11:30 Central on MeTV.
Who loves you?
Hi, I'm John Malos, and welcome to Connect with Me, this live edition here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. Today we're talking about the 98th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. It started 98 years ago today, the 100-mile march through the desert. We've got a special guest in the studio. Stand by. Our phone calls are important. Phone calls coming from you. The number here is 436-ME-TV. Back in just a moment. And welcome to this edition of Connect with Me, live on MeTV Fresno, right here on Comcast Channel 187 and 43.6 on this Wednesday. You know, the situation today is a very somber one because we commemorate the 98th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. This is the date that it all began many moons ago. And this government, the United States government, still fails to recognize the Armenian Genocide. A lot of people, of course, especially here in the Central Valley, some 60,000 Armenians strong, really simply in this day and age can't believe that this government, to this day, has not recognized the Armenian Genocide. Let's go to the videotape and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It all began, as I said, on April the 24th. They rounded up the intellectuals, the politicians, and the men, those part of the Ottoman Empire. They slaughtered many of them, and then they went on that long, arduous journey, 100-mile march through the Syrian desert, what we now know as the country of Syria. Of course, as we all know, many did not make it. Thousands did not make it. They died along the way, and that was the whole purpose of the march. It started April 24th, 1915. A few months later, by August of 1915, some 800,000 had died. They were killed. In the end, 3 years, 1915 to 1918, 1.5 million Armenians were slaughtered. They were killed, men, women, and children. Of course, last week we had Ken Davidian, the actor, here on our show talking about the film Orphans of the Genocide. It was produced and written by Barid Maronian. Live in our studio right now is Sergio La Porta. He is the chair of Armenian Studies at Fresno State. He is here to talk about the genocide, why it is not recognized still by the U.S. government after all these years, 98 years. You stop and think about it. In 2 years will be the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide, and perhaps even by then it still may not be recognized. Your phone calls are important here. 436-ME-TV. We got a brand new phone number. You'll see it up on your screen. 436-ME-TV. Back with our guest in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
By the way, before I forget, talking about yesterday's show here on the set, and Sally Lovejoy, she was a runner in the Boston Marathon. She was from Visalia. She lives there. She saw everything unfold in front of her. I just want to thank her again for coming in yesterday and putting that thing on tape. Sorry we had no phone calls, but what a terrific guest. And we've got another terrific guest here in our studio today, Sergio La Porta. He's the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State, talking about the Armenian Genocide. How are you?
Good morning.
Hey,
well,
it's good
thank
to
you.
have you.
Nice to meet you, John.
So
Thanks,
it's my pleasure to meet you, actually, and thank you for your time. And what activities were you involved with this morning regarding the 98th anniversary, of course, of the beginning of the genocide?
Well, we've actually had activities pretty much all week, and the main activity started yesterday evening, Tuesday on the 23rd, when there was a commemoration at the Mount Ararat Cemetery, the Armenian cemetery here, and Ambassador Evans, the former U.S. ambassador to Armenia, was in attendance. And then this morning at 9 a.m., we had the flag-raising ceremony down at City Hall, in which the American and then the Armenian flags were raised and the national anthems were sung. That'll be followed up today at noon with a silent vigil at Fresno State, followed at 1 by a program at Fresno State, and then this evening at 7 p.m. at Pilgrim Armenian Church for the full commemoration ceremony, where our keynote speaker will again be Ambassador John Evans.
Yeah, a great speaker he is.
Yeah,
very
he is.
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, on a personal note, you are not Armenian.
No, I'm not.
Yet you're an expert on the Armenian Genocide, and you are the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State.
Yes.
Tell us how all that came about.
Well, actually, I started with studying Second Temple Judaism and early Christianity, and somebody said, take Armenian. And so I did. And from
you
there,
speak Armenian?
Yeah, I can also speak
Really?
modern Armenian. My own specialty is classical. Or
Say hello, how are you in Armenian?
Barev says in Shpesek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do I say in return?
Love him. Shashnoragalujun. Yeah.
Okay, I can't say that.
That's okay.
A little too much for me to
It's okay.
handle at this point. But anyway, but obviously you took a liking to the Armenian culture.
Yeah.
And the people of Armenia, and why hasn't this country recognized the genocide up to this point? I mean, 98 years is a long time.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting question, an important question. Obviously, it's a complex problem as well. One of the things that I find most disturbing is how well known the Armenian genocide was known in America at the time when it was happening and immediately afterwards. Movie stars were involved in bringing attention to it. Politicians, sports. Babe Ruth was involved. Presidents, senators.
How was Babe Ruth involved?
I believe he auctioned off his baseball bat that hit the home run in support of the people who survived the Armenian genocide. So I mean, this was the first.
Really?
This was the first and largest humanitarian.
Do you recall what year that? Because I'm a Babe Ruth fan.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I believe Michael Bobelian talks about that in his book. On the Armenian genocide, and so you can look that up there. But it was the largest humanitarian aid effort ever launched. To this day, if you put it into modern dollars, it's still the largest humanitarian aid effort that has ever been launched. And in the aftermath, once it all died, after everything died down, and in the later 20s and in the 30s, this sort of memory began to be forgotten. Right. And then with the advent of the Cold War and with the Republic of Turkey's siding with the United States against the Soviet Union, it then became tactically...
All right, here's what it boils down to, in my opinion. Okay, my opinion doesn't mean much, but this is how I see it. The U.S. does not want to ruffle the feathers of Turkey because we have bases there, military bases there, and we want to remain on friendly terms with them. Is that correct?
That's
what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to, except I would say that if Turkey is such an ally of ours, why are they interfering in our own domestic decisions? We wouldn't
Such as?
Well, the decision to recognize that it was a genocide actually puts no pressure on Turkey whatsoever. What the United States would be saying is that the Ottoman government in 1915, and I would say between the years 1915 and then 1923, perpetrated a genocide against the Armenian people. Our recognition of that fact does not force Turkey to do anything. And really, if they're willing to scuttle this alliance, which is so important to their own defense and their own economy, then there's something pathologically wrong with the way they're thinking.
Yeah, but let me ask you, okay, so let's say the U.S., in fact, in a couple of years, recognizes the genocide. What would that do to our relations with Turkey, and how would Turkey react?
I think we could take, for example, the French case, in which France did actually recognize the Armenian genocide officially. Turkey broke off relations for 6 months. But the world such as it is today is so interconnected. It's not in Turkey's interest to break off relations with the United States. And as I said,
they would do that if we recognized the genocide?
I think they would make a big stink, a big holler, and they would threaten. But at the end of the day, they may force us to close a base or to move some bases out, but they wouldn't let us use those bases anyway in the Iraq War. So it doesn't, I mean, in that sense.
So then why doesn't the U.S. do it?
Because there's a very powerful Turkish lobby that lobbies them against it. I think they're not willing to even risk that amount of
Turkish lobby. Is it in Washington?
In Washington. I mean, there's the official Turkish lobby from the like any country.
And
has
so they
one.
lobby congressmen, they lobby the senators,
right.
And so they have a big lobbying group that kind of deflects anything that goes in the way of recognizing the genocide.
Yes. Yeah.
And they've been doing it for years.
They've been doing it for years. It went back to when MGM wanted to actually make a picture, a motion movie picture, based on the experiences, based on the book, The 40 Days of Musa Dagh, back in the 30s. And the State Department squashed it because of complaints from the Turkish government. And, you know, that was a book that was a bestseller, written by Franz Werfel, translated into numerous languages.
In Hollywood has the courage to make a big-time movie about the genocide?
I've heard Steven Spielberg has contemplated it. I've heard, but I'm not.
The government can't stop him from doing it.
Well, hopefully not. They stopped it in the past, and I hope they wouldn't try to do it now, and they probably wouldn't. I'm not going to accuse them of trying to do that, but you know, hopefully it will be made.
Of course, Spielberg, you know, he produced and wrote the Schindler's List, which was the Jewish Holocaust, and no one said anything about that. In fact, that was a difficult movie to watch.
Yeah.
But where have you heard the rumblings that he may, in fact, try to do a movie?
I've heard that just on in Armenian sort of forums online.
Yeah.
I am not. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great if he could. Obviously, there are parallels between the Jewish experience and the Armenian experience, although each one is unique and has its own contours.
Right.
But that have somebody, considering that the word genocide itself was coined by Raphael Lemkin in 1944 and accepted officially in 1948. Based on his own study of the Armenian Genocide and of his family's experience in the Holocaust. He lost a number of people in the Holocaust. Yeah. That's how he really discovered the term, or came to coin the term. So it would be fitting, I think, to have that sort of mixture come in also for a major motion picture.
Yeah. Amazing. Hey, we're talking to Sergio La Porta. He is the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State. Your phone calls are important. Look, there are 60,000 Armenians here in the Central Valley. Some of you have to be watching this program and have a question to call in at 436-ME-TV. Want me to repeat that again? 436-ME-TV. A very simple number to remember. Any questions, call in. We're back in just a moment.
When you need to talk to a private eye.
You want to be talking to Jim Rockford.
That's right. He's the one to talk to.
They don't know who you're talking to.
Rockford.
He's got everyone talking.
What kind of lowlife is he?
Takes out half-page ads in a phone book.
I seem to recall the phrase, moderately intelligent private detective.
You have a smart mouth. You're right, I do. But I'm working on changing that.
Jim Rockford is all the talk on MeTV.
He's something else, all right.
Weekdays at 11:10 Central on MeTV.
On April the 24th here, commemorating the 98th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. It all started on this day in 1915 when they rounded up all those intellectuals, all the politicians, the men, the young boys. They marched them out into the desert. Many of them died. Many of them were slaughtered, killed. But the whole purpose of that march was the fact that they wanted them dead. So they figured, hey, let's take them out to the desert. Eventually they'll die or we'll kill them.
Yes, I mean
that was the whole point.
The whole point of rounding up the intellectuals was the keen observation that if you kill the head, right, then the body will go much more easily, and that was true. Without their political leadership, without any of their intellectual leadership, the Armenians were a much more vulnerable community. And yes, the desired goal was to march these people out. Half the time they shot them, the other half they for the women starved to death in the desert. And have them just waste away. And they moved them from their homes to Aleppo, and then from Aleppo to concentration camps such as Deir Zor in the middle of the Syrian desert, and walked them around in circles.
Terrible, terrible story. Anyway, we've got a phone call. Good morning. You're on with Sergio La Porta. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, good. What's your question?
I have no question. It's just as the United States government has always stuck their fingertips in things and then backed off. They just leave it half-half done.
Yeah. Well, that's true in many aspects. I mean, in this particular case, I know when George Radonovich was a congressman in this area, he tried to get a resolution passed, but it failed.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
been very difficult, even though California, Montebello, California was the first Armenian Genocide memorial to be erected in the United States, and obviously California is a leading voice towards genocide recognition. But the problem is, you know, all the past U.S. presidents have promised on the campaign trail that they will recognize the genocide, and then when they get into the hot seat,
yes,
right, there's nothing new, right? It's nothing new, but it is.
How do you think they get elected?
It is getting more and more unconscionable, though. Yeah,
that's no surprise. So I mean, come on, why does the Turkish government deny it? That it ever happened, that they were involved. How could they, when there's all this evidence?
Well, the evidence they're able to dismiss pretty easily themselves. They've psychologically worked themselves into this state where it just doesn't exist. But you have seen movement on the denialist position. It started from, well, the Armenians were never here. Well, we can't really say that because people do know they were there, and we have long history. So then it started to move in. Well, we were moving them because it's World War I. We wanted to get them out of the zone of war. It was for their own benefit, and so we just happened to take all of that community and move it to the middle of the desert where they starved to death, and it was not properly handled because we didn't have the technological advances to do it, and so they died by accident. And again, that's also ludicrous. It's also ludicrous because we know we have letters even from Arab soldiers who were serving on the marches saying, why are we taking these people around in circles through the desert? I want to get back. I want to get back home myself.
Yeah.
So
it's as ludicrous as denying that the Jewish Holocaust ever happened.
Yes, I mean, it's completely as ludicrous. Yeah. But right now, there's a psychological problem I think they have with admitting it. Yeah. They don't want to come to terms with that. I hope that they will. I hope for their own sake that they're able to overcome this and move forward.
Look in the mirror.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, I look in the mirror quite often. Matter of fact, several times a day. Anyway, Sergio La Porta is here, chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State, and I want to take you back in time. Okay. And we have a piece that was put together by our producer, Ara Kachatoyan, that takes you back in time to look at the despicable acts that took place in the Armenian Genocide.
April 24th. Today marks the 98th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide of 1915. A crime perpetrated by the hands of the Ottoman Empire that most historians and international experts have concluded was one of the largest massacres in world's history. For years, Armenians and non-Armenians alike have gathered to remember, to pray, to ask this nation's leaders to officially recognize the genocide, and to demand justice from the Turkish government, whom till this day denies it ever took place. In Fresno, hundreds of Valley Armenians attended this morning's flag-raising ceremony in front of City Hall, where local officials and community leaders remind attendees to never forget and encourage them not to give up until justice has prevailed. This past Sunday, the Armenian Youth Federation, Fresno State's Armenian Students Organization, and the Homenet Men Armenian Scouts gathered together at historic Holy Trinity Armenian Apostolic Church in downtown Fresno to sing, recite, and speak about the Armenian Genocide.
Ես իմ անփութ աչքերովս այս մարդկային իմ անվտանգ տնագիս քեհանընթիր լուսամուտ.
When asked about the importance of remembering the genocide, Father Vahan Gostanyan has this to say.
It is very important for us to remember and keep asking for justice for all the nations, not just for the Armenians who were massacred, for all the nations, even the Holocaust. Until today, there are massacres taking place in Africa. So we should speak up and not keep quiet.
Armenian Youth Federation member and Fresno State student Kanar Kakhajian reminds us why it's important for the Armenian youth to come together.
I believe the youth are our future, and it just in general in America. And if we don't start working together to fight for our cause, which is recognition of the Armenian Genocide, then who will?
The Home Minute Men Scouts, a co-ed Armenian scouting organization affiliated with the Boy Scouts of America, form a pyramid to show the unity and strength of the Armenians. And an emotional troop leader, Lisa Panosian, tells us what she hopes to accomplish.
What do you hope that these children will get out of it?
If they just remember and be thankful for who they are and for the struggle their ancestors went through for us, that's all I could ask.
And lastly, 8-year-old Armenian Cub Scout Hagop Kachatorian tells us why he thinks April 24th is important to remember.
So why is April 24th important to you?
Because it was the date that the Armenian Genocide started. That's what I think.
All right, that was a beautiful piece put together by our producer. He's an Armenian, Ara Kachatorian. We saw there toward the end his son and his daughter. A very beautiful piece. We're talking with Dr. Sergio La Porta. He's the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State. We're going to continue our conversation. We're a little long in this segment. Don't forget the phone number, 436-ME-TV, if you want to chime in with your comments here on Connect with Me. Back in a moment.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom? With a new fast, efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want.
This Amana Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is now just $6.99, and this heavy-duty Maytag Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is only $8.99.
Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
And we're back here on Connect with Me. The Armenian Genocide, the 98th anniversary of the beginning of the genocide took place, of course, April the 24th, 1915. That's when all the chaos and massacres began. We're talking with Dr. Sergio La Porta, the chair of the Armenian Studies. Hey, what about all the intellects, the professors over at over in Turkey? Do any of them, I mean, they're intellectuals, do they recognize the genocide?
There's been some, I mean, if we have to look at a positive aspect to this, there have been many Turkish intellectuals that have come out, have looked at their past again and said, look, what happened was a genocide and we're just wrong with the way we're presenting this. Some of them now teach in the United States, possibly because they feel more secure here or they're able to get jobs here. But there are also ones in Turkey who, and they have, some of them have suffered some negative feedback. Attacks on a publisher. I know of a Turkish publisher. They had their offices blown up. We can also talk about Hrant Dink, who was an Armenian activist there who was assassinated. But on the other hand, I think Turkish is
risking their lives by recognizing the genocide.
Yeah, they are risking their lives.
Professors, the intellects.
They're risking their lives. They're definitely risking their jobs. But they are forcing the issue, and they are opening their people's consciousness a bit more. And I give them full credit for doing that, and I hope that will be the trend that will continue into the future, so that by the 100th, I think it may be a little bit hopeful, but by the 100th anniversary that we'll have recognition, but at least in our lifetime that we may have recognition.
All right, I want to talk about this before we run out of time, because I want to go in depth into it a little bit. This Boston Marathon thing, the bombings. Yeah. Okay, we talked about the two suspects. One's dead, one's alive. The one that's dead is Tamerlan.
Yeah.
Supposedly these characters are from Chechnya with a Turkish background, or
there's been a lot of information put out on the web about their background. Now, Chechens are Turkic people. Their language is a Turkic language. That's not saying that they're Turkish or citizens of Turkey. I've also heard that they lived in Turkey. I've heard that they have Turkish passports.
Well, what does that mean then?
All it means is
so when you're from Chechnya,
you're Chechen.
You're Chechen.
Yeah, and they're ethnically
you're part
Chechen.
Russian. You're part Turkish.
No,
what are you?
Chechnya is within Russia. Fought a war in order to keep Chechnya within the borders of the Russian, within the Russian Federation. But the people who live there are not ethnically Russian; they're ethnically Chechen. They're majority Muslim, and they're.
Is it a similar situation with China and Taiwan?
I can't speak to that. It's not. It's more, I would think, more similar to the situation between China and Tibet, where Tibet is
China and Tibet is a good example.
Where the Tibetans are different people, and the Chinese have basically colonized that whole area.
So it's a similar situation, but I guess what I'm getting at is there's a story, and has been circulating for many days now, that this guy that's dead, this guy Tamerlan, that he was trained by an Armenian Christian who turned to radical Islam, the jihad movement. Do you believe that?
I don't believe that.
Tell us why.
I don't believe it because let me put it this way. I have not seen any credible source relate that information. I have not seen any official news agency. I've only heard this go around on the web, and it's been related to me by word of mouth or online. I have not heard any official source actually state that. I heard more officially that the person
heard it and read it in the news media.
Online, not from the New York Times, not from the Wall Street Journal, not from any of the major media outlets. I've only heard it on things like AOL or Yahoo as a meme that's gone around.
It's possible for an Armenian to turn to Islam and be a jihadist.
What I'm saying is that if you're an Armenian who converts to Islam, you are no longer an Armenian in terms of what your self-identification is.
Yeah.
You have removed. I don't believe the story in general, only because there's been no evidence forwarded to support it, and furthermore, the Russians have said that.
Came from then?
I don't know. It could be spread by any channels who want to spread disinformation, and in any case, what I heard officially was that the person who had taught them was killed by Russia about a year ago. Or 6 months ago. I don't remember exactly. But so I don't exactly know whom they studied with.
All right. We're talking to Dr. Sergio La Porta, the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State. We do have a call talking about the genocide. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I have a question for Sergio. Isn't it true that President Wilson took a pass on a proposal that was submitted to League of Nations, the early predecessor to the United Nations ideal, a proposal that would recognize the genocide on the world stage, and then did history repeat itself in the Truman years when Europe was being restructured? Did Truman pass the buck, as it were, or let the opportunity pass to chastise Turkey for their role in the Armenian genocide? Thank you, Sergio.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Yes, there was a plan originally for there to be an Armenian state following World War I, and that quickly fell by the wayside, and President Wilson, who had sort of lukewarmly supported the idea, did take a pass on that notion. Again, the situation following World War I and the success of the Turkish nationalist troops led by Ataturk sort of made the realization of an Armenian state, let's say, more difficult for the world powers to defend, and so they did take a pass on it. For Truman, I would say yes. He, as many presidents have, he's not alone, did take a pass on chastising Turkey for their involvement.
All right, quickly before we go, another piece of video talking about the Armenian genocide. Here it is.
At Fresno State, we have a lot of Armenians, and we have a great group of students that are involved, and we have a wonderful Armenian Studies program where we offer courses in history and about the Armenian genocide, and we definitely encourage and welcome even non-Armenian students, and we have a few non-Armenian students are active, and we also have non-Armenian students taking Armenian language classes, so it's we're very welcoming, and we very much encourage people to get involved.
You know him?
Yes, yeah, he was a student. He's still a student at Fresno State. Hagop Ohanessian.
Okay, and that was part of the students, part of the Armenian Studies.
Yeah, the Armenian Studies organization at Fresno State is quite active. They're very active. They do a lot in terms of informing non-Armenians and Armenians about not only the Armenian genocide, but Armenian culture and history as well. So we're very proud of them. They also head up the Hai Sharjum, the Armenian student newspaper, which has probably the largest circulation of any Armenian student newspaper in the country.
And we talk about Syria, what happened 98 years ago. Look what's happening in Syria now.
A very difficult situation.
Yeah.
And there's still an Armenian population in Syria, in Aleppo.
How big is it?
At the moment, I would say it's probably about 150,000. I could be off on that.
Many of them are being slaughtered over there?
Well, I think many of them are leaving. I haven't heard, I mean, there have been Armenians who have been killed. There have been Armenian sites that have been destroyed. I don't think they're being targeted for being Armenian per se, but I think we'll find out what is actually going on. It will take a while to figure that out.
All right. Good of you to be here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Hey, thanks for your time. Come back again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. That's Dr. Sergio La Porta, the chair of the Armenian Studies at Fresno State. That's going to do it for us. We're back tomorrow on MeTV for another edition of Connect with Me.
James Arness is Marshal Matt Dillon.
They were looking for me. They're going to be back.
On Gunsmoke.
That's right.
Weekdays at 1 on MeTV.